So, Tony, could you talk a bit about police? A number of people put on their surveys that, you know, that's safety obviously is a critical issue. People wanted to boost cops. People wanted to have community cops back. People wanted mini stations. Could you explain about, if you're a mayor, what you would do about policing here in the city and where you would find the money for that?
Again, the money already exists, first off. Safety is paramount. It's the #1 most important issue. It's the reason that all of us are talking about it primarily in our candidacies, because homicide rates are increasing and people don't feel safe in the neighborhoods. The problem is there's no quick solution. We've got to do something that's long-term. We've got to look at the root foundation. So we got to build trust in the community with our police force, so that is community policing. It's also supporting our safety services. For years, our safety services have not felt any support at all. I've had numerous conversations with police, fire, and EMS. Limited support, cut the budget every single year, basically steal money out of the budget. For example, if something's allocated towards staff and we don't properly hire all of those staff members, that money doesn't go to be reallocated towards something in the police department. That money goes back into the general fund so the mayor can build a bike track or pay a settlement. $40 million in 12 years, by the way, of settlements for police brutality. Maybe we didn't have the consent decree if we would have made those changes that we were told to make over a decade ago, right when you took office. We wouldn't be having this conversation, in my opinion.
Well, we wouldn't be having these settlements if the police weren't out of control. Their unions have essentially made them more powerful than the people in the city. If we're not attacking those unions and trying to bring them down, we're not going to have any kind of connection between the community and the police department. And in my opinion, they've destroyed, along with some of the laws, these very commonplace laws like open container laws. We've destroyed the relationship with the community and our police department. Now our police department think everybody in the community are criminals. You can't treat everybody like criminals and expect that, you know, they're gonna have some sort of connection with the police department. We have to attack that. I mean, I think our police need the resources, but at the same time, they don't need to be more powerful than the community itself. If it wasn't for their actions, we wouldn't have had to pay out $6 million. So we do need a constitutional protection unit, I think, to protect the constitutional rights of our people. Many of our people believe that their constitutional rights are not being protected, and we need a community-based approach to solving our youth gang violence problem. And I have put forth a plan to do that. I think it's imperative that our community believe that the police is on their side, not against them.
Actually, I have a plan I've been working on to get guns out of pockets of people who basically shouldn't have them. In Washington, D.C., they have a gunshot sensor. They can tell within 3 feet when a gunshot goes off. Combination of cameras, monitoring, not necessarily hiring 300 or 400 more policemen, but using technology to upgrade our police department. But first and foremost, we have to fulfill the consent decree. That's #1. And then we can take control again of our police department and not are supervised by a federal judge. That plan I'll be fleshing out more as we go. But again, first take the guns off the street, and I have a plan to do that.
But what would knowing where the gunshots are do to help with that? I mean, we know where the gunshots are. They're flying like crazy. So how do you get the guns?
No, we don't. I go to sleep to them. Some over here, some over there. If a camera picked up a certain car on a certain street and the sensor said the gunshots had taken place there, that happens 10 times, 5 times, but you have to set the policy, then that should be a right to go and search. Okay, you have to initially be able to go in and look. They actually have a sensor that can go along a car and tell whether there is drugs and I don't want to school everybody to my plan until I roll the whole thing out formally, but they have some technology that I've been looking at that can actually x-ray just like you do at the airport, and there's nothing illegal about it, and figure out what's in that car. And if you don't have a permit to carry a gun, and that would be shown on your record, your driver's record, then you are primarily pull you over, search your car. There are ways to do this technologically without hiring a whole lot more police officers and getting the job done and making people feel safe again. That people shouldn't have guns, don't have them.
Mayor? Sorry.
And the questions around safety.
Yeah, about safety, policing? I guess some people would say you haven't done enough in these years to make sure that that's the case, so.
Right. So in order, crime is a symptom. So it's a symptom of something else going on. And so in order to remedy that, you have to go deeper into what is the cause of that symptom. Of course, in the short run, there is a need for enforcement, and what we are doing is bringing on additional police officers, and it will take time. This year we had 2 classes, 2 lateral transfers. We're planning another classes going into next year so we can keep pace and outpace the attrition part of it. So that's the enforcement side, and creating specialized units along with technology to help in enforcement. But one of the things I agree with Councilman Reed on is that having an employment opportunity and the ability to take care of yourself and your family is a major part of the underlying cause of whether or not there's crime. And in creating the jobs that we are creating, whether it's through the pre-apprenticeship program, the only one in the state of Ohio at Max Hayes, that we have the building trades, the jobs that we have through community benefits, those jobs, and then education. Education is key to give young people not just being educated for a job, but also educated to be a better decision maker in the environment in which they live. And those are the kind of things. And then the prevention and intervention programs that we have that I don't have time to talk about.
Okay, I like the one. It's my turn.
Yes, it's your turn.
This is the #1 issue during this campaign, but it includes so many of the other issues because it is a symptom. But it's important, particularly in light of how part of the mayor's strategy is to say we don't do nothing as council people. The difference between the mayor when he was a councilman, he had Mike White. I don't have Mike White. Mike White was committed to the neighborhood. Mike White invested in the neighborhood. I have Frank Jackson. It is what it is. There is a significant difference. The northeast side of Cleveland has been totally ignored. So it's taken me 4 years to put East Side Market, and it'll open up this October because I got little help out of City Hall, for example. But crime. I stood for 6 years on that floor of council, check YouTube. I told the mayor we have a crisis in crime. He sat quietly until this year when he made all his moves in 2017. It was me back in 1984 when I fought for the sex crimes and child abuse unit after 2 young girls were raped and killed, Gloria Pointer and Trina Middleton. I just want to understand I have a history with fighting crime and caring about crime. We have to deal with bringing vocational education back to the schools. We have to break the cycle while we're still dealing with crime now. 53% of homicides are unsolved. Why? Because we don't have enough detectives. The load is too high. Police are one of the lowest paid police forces in the country. I don't want to hang my hat on just because we just passed the issue of income tax increase. So I want to be able to tell you as mayor, I want to be able to improve the police service by implementing a consent decree, and the consent decree came about because it happened under his watch. So I'm gonna end there, but crime is #1, and I think I can make a change.
Councilman Johnson, you got 5 seconds.
I got 5 seconds left? Okay, I can say goodbye later.
Brandon.
Yeah, of course not. So new leadership first and foremost, as spoken about before, as many candidates have, and firing Flask and McGrath. We need new leadership. If you look at all the incidents that have happened, including the implementation of the consent decree, they've been at the reins, and that needs to change. It needs to be transparent and accountable. We need to figure out new methods of policing. And I'm talking about a focused deterrence model. It's worked on the coast dramatically. It's going to these gangs, it's the bad guys. It's saying, look, here's what we got you on, but here's also ways out, social services, job training, etc. It's giving options, and it works, okay? It works on the coast, and we need to start employing new methods because over the last 3 years, 100+ homicides and increasing even more this year is not working, right? It's just anyone on the outside could tell you the same thing I am. More officers. Yes, we need to hire more officers. I don't think that we need an extravagant amount, but there is a number that we need. I'm saying 150. We also need to go and get a contract sealed for our police, and that should be a 5, 5, and 5 contract, 5%, 5%, 5%, because we are the lowest paid within 3 states out of any major city. That's got to stop because a happy officer is a productive officer. If you have 2 to 3 cars per zone, when right now we don't even have 1 to cover each zone in a district, What happens is community policing naturally, because you're able to see Mrs. Jones, you're able to see something working or not working. That's how we do community policing, as well as getting kids involved into how the police work. Train them over the summertime on how the K-9 unit works or the bomb squad. I'm hustling. And what you have to understand is police are heroes. They used to be, and now they're not so much. So we need to get that back in place. Moving the police academy here is essential because we can't keep up with highway patrol training that what's going on in Columbus. Bring it to Cleveland so people are comfortable in the urban environment, so they know how to react instead of maybe being a little fearful with the trigger. And most importantly, the money is there. We are $12 million under budget in the police force, and that went right back to the general fund, not earmarked for police, 12.7 to be exact. And job training centers. Investing in those, providing a more powerful yes. The recidivism at Edwards is less than 2%. Opportunity works. A more powerful yes works. And I know I'm out of time. Thank you.
You are out of time.
I'm probably dead.
Yeah,
Good time.
No, I'm out of time.
It's the most important topic, safety. You have to keep it focused on the priority, and it's making sure men and women and children aren't being mowed down by bullets in the streets of Cleveland. Over 1,000 have died in that manner over the last 10 years. The facts don't lie. This city is getting more and more dangerous. And as someone who's played sports, you have to have a sense of urgency, and there can be no more urgency except on this issue. You have to address it, and as someone who needs to get this done fast, we don't have time to think through all the different comprehensive issues underneath it. We need to make sure bullets aren't hitting people. I've reached out to a brilliant leader named Reverend Charles Harrison out of Indianapolis, who started something called the 10-Point Coalition, where they've been able to, in a very comprehensive, collaborative way, working with the faith community, working with the business community, philanthropic, police, ex-incarcerated citizens, ex-gang members, and City Hall, to take some of their most dangerous neighborhoods from the most violent to absolutely no homicides for hundreds of days and months. That's what I'm talking about, proven models that work. Of course we Clevelandize it, because we're not Indianapolis, but we need to bring a 10-point coalition. It's the first thing that I'll do, God willing, when we win this thing. And lastly, when I ran 8 years ago, I think it's important that the citizens of Cleveland know of the consistency. My platform then was serve Cleveland, safety, education, recreation, volunteerism, economic development. 8 years later, safe streets, quality schools. So, I mean, there's consistency, there's focus, and this time we're bringing specificity and results, and there's no more important issue.